Good morning. Okay, New York's awake. Good thing. We've got Adam Smith with us today, CTO of FedEx, as you know, which we're very, very excited about for obvious reasons. And I wonder if we could start by talking about, tell us a bit about the scope of FedEx. I'm not sure people realize how substantial it is.
Yeah, of course. First, I want to say thank you for having me here this morning. It's an honor to be here. Love being in New York, so super excited. I'll start a little bit about just about FedEx. And so, to your point, what a lot of people don't recognize is that FedEx, which hopefully everybody knows, operates in 220 countries and territories around the world. We support 98% of the global GDP. We have over 500,000 team members. We have over 200,000 motorized vehicles moving around the world, 700 planes, and move about 14.5 million packages around the world every day.
I guess you know what the word scale means.
Yeah, we have to operate at scale every day for sure.
So you've been there for a long time, like 22, 23 years?
22 years.
So you've seen it all. Talk a bit about what it's been like, because 22 years ago, it wasn't like it was today.
No, honestly, when I started at FedEx in Dallas 22 years ago, I started as a developer. And I worked my way up to be the Chief Technology Officer, and I was appointed that 4 years ago. I moved to Memphis from Dallas in 2015, and honestly, I've moved through a bunch of different areas in the company. And we always, the one thing that's really important for the team members in FedEx and in IT is we always push how important it is to get exposure to different areas of the company. The great thing about FedEx, as big and as much as we do at the company, you can have multiple careers inside FedEx. I mean, you can move across different functions, divisions inside FedEx and get exposure to a bunch of different areas. I started in the commercial side of the business on FedEx.com 22 years ago, and then I've worked in retail, and now I own some of the core operational systems and some of the core data assets for the company.
So technologically, through these years, what have you seen? Has it been rapid? Has it been just slow evolution, gradual?
Yeah, so FedEx, I mean, it's, I'll just say FedEx is an innovation company, right? And our executive chairman and founder, Fred Smith, who started the overnight package shipping industry 50 years ago, is an innovator at heart. And it was in 1978, he basically said the information about the package is as important as the package itself. And if you think about operating in 220 countries and territories around the world, we collect a lot of data on moving the 14.5 million packages a day through our network. And so when you think about that, innovation's been at the core of everything we've done. We stood up the first 800 megahertz network, RF network across North America to start early capturing package information from couriers as they were delivering packages on the early days of FedEx.com to give customers visibility to those shipments. But to your point, technology's obviously changed a lot over the years. Over the last decade in IT, we've gone through this massive technology transformation. We have a goal of 0 data centers and 0 mainframe by calendar year 24, which is next year. We're on track to retire the last mainframe applications we have early next calendar year, with the goal to shut down our own data centers by the end of next year and move entirely into the colo and cloud. In our colo locations, it's hyper-converged infrastructure, software-defined everything, and we're trying to find the right balance of what we run base workload in the colos versus what we basically run in the cloud. And we have strong partnerships with the hyperscalers, and we do a lot of our advanced analytic work in the cloud. And so we actually move a lot of the data that we capture from our commercial and operational systems into the cloud to basically build is where we build and train a lot of our advanced models.
So you've been doing this for a couple of decades. Did it ever strike you one day along these couple of decades like, wow? Or is it just sort of gradual at the evolution every?
I mean, I would say there's been evolutionary moments over the last couple of decades. But our CIO, Rob Carter, who's been the CIO at FedEx now for 23 years, longest sitting CIO in a corporate 50 company. Corporate 100 company. He's been at the edge of where we need to head. A lot of the recent, a lot of the desire to exit the data centers and shut down the mainframe was led by him. When a lot of companies have found it very difficult to shut down the mainframes, and we're at the end of that. But honestly, right now, it's the next evolution, right? Could I have been sitting here a year ago and said, Gen AI will be in a year from now what it is today? I wouldn't have envisioned that at all.
Well, you're not alone.
Yeah.
So what does the digital transformation look like at FedEx?
So I think part of what I was saying earlier. I mean, it's we've been innovating for a lot of years, and really digital has kind of helped change how we think about how we interface with our customers as well as operations. Because I mean, at the end of the day, digital drives improved efficiency. It improves better service for our customers and a reduction in cost. And so there's plenty of examples where we've kind of really leaned into digital. And so, one of the things a couple of things I'll share is, the first one being, we've built some pretty advanced estimated delivery date models that we're running in our hyperscaling partners environments that allows us to get better predictability as to when we're actually going to deliver packages for our customers. Because at the end of the day, for everybody, the most important thing to our customers is when's the package going to get there, and if it's going to be delayed, why. So we've got, like I said, we're building a lot on top of the data sets that we've collected over the years. But I think more interestingly, in some of the advancements we've made, we have a proprietary sensor-based logistics device that we've developed in-house. And really what it is, it's a little, we call it a chiclet, small little device we put on packages. It gives us real-time visibility as to where the packages are in the network. We've gone through and updated all of our access points and everything across every edge of the network to give us that transparency and visibility. Prime example for use is we actually put one of these devices on every COVID-19 package that we shipped. It gave us real-time visibility where every package was everywhere in the network, and some of those packages or some of the vaccines had to be temperature controlled too. So it gave us real-time visibility into the temperature of those packages as they were in the network to make sure that they stayed within the appropriate SLAs, or basically constraints. It gave us visibility to dwell time, so if dwell times were getting too long, we knew where they were. It would start to trigger alerts, so we could basically react to where those shipments are and basically adjust in a way that we needed to. We delivered every COVID-19 package on time as expected, but that's an example of where we use the sensor-based logistics devices. When it comes to digital, if you think about it, the massive physical network that we have that runs the globe has been the foundation for our digital experiences in the past. It's fed a lot of data into our digital channels for both our customers as well as our operational employees to make better decisions on how we run the business. But that's pivoted, right? As we think about the digital twin, now from a digital point of view, it's actually the digital world, the data is driving decisions that we need to make in the physical network. And so as we think about it, it's about having that world-class physical network and delivering digital solutions for our customers. And with that, we've actually launched a new product for our business customers called Surround, which is about allowing our customers to understand where their packages are in delivery, but also to create options for them to intercept and drive package routing in different ways because of potential, I'll call it issues, whether that be weather or other. And so that type of information for our business customers is something they haven't had visibility to before, and just allows us to make different decisions for our customers and allows the customers to make different decisions moving forward as a digital offering that we never really had before when everything's been really physical.
So with all this data coming in from packages from around the world in real time, do you have a mission control center somewhere, or is it just all distributed throughout the whole organization?
Sorry about that. A couple years ago, we stood up a division inside FedEx called DataWorks, and really the focus of the DataWorks is really about how do we start to realize the value and power of the data, because prior to that, a lot of the work that we were doing on the data was very much federated and distributed out into the various areas of the organization. And so what we did was we have a data platform now that we run in Azure. We basically ingest all of the data from our commercial and operational systems into that enterprise platform, and allows us to create a central view of how we leverage that data. And what I mean by that is, we're building a lot of models now to optimize and create greater efficiency in how we run the business. And a lot of those models, what we do is we actually get a lot of reuse out of them on common data sets, and we call it a flywheel effect. Basically, it's how do we instead of building a bunch of different models that do the same thing for various areas of the business, is how do we basically build models, build them once, get reuse of them, so that we can drive more value at an expedited pace for our business. And so, again, we're consolidating a lot of that data into that enterprise platform and data lake.
So does all that data coming in from the packages, does that impact the development of the supply chain?
Well, one of the things that's important for us is in our digital goal is not just to make our customer experiences better on the commercial side of the business, but it's about creating smart supply chains. Not just smart supply chains for us, but smart supply chains for our customers. And so it's about how do we get better how do we provide better information and more information for our customers to make better decisions as they run their businesses.
So when you look at technology and data, how do you merge the two?
Yeah, it's obviously we are still working our way through this. I think like a lot of people are. We do capture, if you think of the large number of applications it takes to run FedEx every day, every week, every month. There's a lot of operational and commercial systems we collect a lot of data from. We've got a very large eventing backbone that we run inside FedEx with, and we move hundreds of billions of transactions through that eventing backbone every day. And all of that data, a lot of that data is fed into that enterprise data lake like I talked about. But the reality is there's a lot of work we're doing through data science and machine learning and model development to build a lot of advanced capabilities to optimize how we run our business. And a lot of those insights have to be fed back into our operational and commercial systems. And what we're trying to do right now is figure out how do we actually incorporate a lot of those insights back into our operational systems, because what we want to be and who we need to be is a real-time dynamic network so that we can make real-time decisions and basically react accordingly to provide the best experience and best service for our customers.
So how do you get buy-in from people in the organization? Is it just natural, or do you have to sell it?
I think the reality is this digital transformation and thinking about the intersection of data and tech is forcing us to think differently about how we actually provide value for our business partners. I mean, we're going through this massive business transformation right now, going through this massive digital transformation right now. And so as part of those two efforts, one of the things we're also working on is how do we deliver value faster, more efficient, and do all of that reliably for our business partners. And in doing all of that, we know we have to basically have small iterations, rapid development, innovation, getting speed to value fast, test a lot of the capabilities we're trying to deliver, and appropriately make changes as we need to. So we've really shifted, kind of leaning into agility as a core construct, business agility at an enterprise level, agility at the team level for basically delivering smaller incremental value in shorter cycles. And honestly, thinking about how we release capabilities at the intersection of tech and data. I mean, we have to do it fast because the pace of business is changing a lot faster than it was 22 years ago when I started the company.
But people hate change. It sounds like you're doing constant change or evolution.
Yeah, we focus a lot on the organizational change management activities because, as we think about modernization of the SDLC practices, how do you incorporate how do you incorporate AI ops into the process as well, and how do tech and data come together? You know, as I talked about earlier, as we stood up DataWorks as a company, there's a strong synergy between the IT organization and the data organization, and a strong enterprise architecture between the two, so that we're building solutions that align between technology and data and allow us to sustain kind of the scale in which we're going to deploy these solutions. So while we start small, learn, and increment, we also have to scale to support the size of the business that we run.
But do you have issues where you have team members who say, boy, this works really, really well, and then there's something else that comes along, it's like, well, you're going to do this instead of that?
Yeah, I think every organization faces a little bit of that. And I think one of the things that we're, you know, as we're looking at how the organizational construct comes together to support tech and data, I mean, we are empowering the teams, right? As we think about where initiatives come from, how do we empower the teams to deliver the right value the right way for the company? Again, there's overall enterprise architecture, there's guardrails and constructs like that in place. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're trying to empower the teams, because the speed and value comes from the Scrum teams and the arts, not from kind of being top-down led.
So it's not a top-down organization.
There's a lot of enterprise strategy, and there's a lot of enterprise direction on where the strategic priorities are. But we've got a great team. I mean, basically, you know, we've got one of the best engineering teams that I know of. And I think, you know, one of the things that are important for us is that we empower the teams. Again, we're a people-first culture, and we always have been. And basically what we try to do is empower the teams and let the teams lead us to the value.
And as a company, do you have a typical a proof of concept approach? And you must have hundreds of those going on right now.
Yeah, we kind of moved away from the notion of proof of concept to proof of value, because we used to do a lot of proof of concepts that took a long time, and then we realized, okay, this is something that's going to work, and then eventually we would actually figure out how to get value out of it. With a kind of over the past year and a half, we've really pivoted to focus on value for the business. And in that, one of the things that we want to do is make sure that every decision we make, every opportunity we get to test new technology, it's really going to drive value for the business. And that can be incremental revenue, that can be increased efficiencies, but it's really value driven. I mean, we're an applied technology company. We've applied a lot of technologies over the years. One of the things we're trying to do right now is really understand what are the right technologies we need to have for where the business is headed, and make sure that it's driving the right value for the business.
And because technology evolves so much, from a vendor standpoint, do you end up starting with something that has value with a tech vendor, and then there's something else that comes along that's better, and you say, well, we need to switch supplier for that?
Like everybody, I mean, again,
I mean, generally, obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it kind of as we talk, you know, as we're sitting here today at the AI Summit, it's very hard to say yes to that in the kind of the space of AI, generative AI, because everything's changing every day. But generally, when it comes to the technology decisions that we have, we very much try to stay aligned, because if we're constantly pivoting every time something changes, we're not making the progress. Things are taking way too long, and we're not realizing the value.
So you mentioned generative AI. How do you, as a company, how do you look at generative AI?
You know, I think like a lot of companies right now, you know, we're kind of trying to figure it out. And I'll just say, you know, I can tell you how we're thinking about it across 3 different categories. You know, like I said a second ago, we're an applied technology company. We have a lot of partners, a lot of big platforms that help us run our business. And so we're really leaning into those partners as they advance those platforms with internal generative AI capabilities. How do we tap into that to drive value for our business? That's kind of one category. The other category is as we think of our core processes at FedEx, right? I mean, we're generally a build company when it comes to kind of the core of what we do. You can't buy what we do at the size and scale in which we operate off of the shelf. And so there's a lot of business process and a lot of applications and capabilities we've built over a year to support the size and scale of what we do. And so what we're thinking about is how do we actually leverage generative AI in some of those core processes, lean into some of the large language models, optimize and get more efficiency out of the processes we have to drive greater business value for both operations and our customers. And so there's a lot of work kind of going in that space right now, because we've got so much data we're sitting on top of. How do we marry the two things things up to drive better outcomes. And then the third area, I think like everybody is right now, is how do you leverage generative AI to improve the developer experience? And I don't mean just the coding developer, but a lot of the different disciplines. And so how do we drive greater consistency, efficiency in what the developers are doing, leaning into some of the capabilities recently in market from a generative AI point of view?
So when you look at things like generative AI, because you're so big as a company, how do you make sure that anything you do is industrial strength?
Yeah, moving kind of just stepping away from kind of those three categories I just shared, I'll give you some other examples of where we're leaning into AI. And so, one of the things we're very thoughtful about is our partners in this space. We're not just kind of jumping in with anybody to, figure out what we can and can't do. And, when we think about operations, and the complexities of running the operations that we have, it's become very important for us to think about how do we drive more automation. And so with that, one of the things, so I'll just, as an example, operations, we focus heavily on, first and foremost, safety is number one in our operations space. Every time, there's a conversation with one of the presidents in the operations presidents, safety is number one, and that's kind of our core construct. One of the things that we're working on through automation and AI, we have a partnership with Dexterity AI. And so I'll explain what that is. If you think about packing trailers, putting boxes in trailers, and if you think about the different size boxes, the oddly shaped boxes, obviously the most important thing for us is to get those boxes in the trailers as dense as possible. And you can think of that as a large game of Tetris, right? How do you get all of those boxes in there optimally? Dexterity AI at the intersection of robotics and AI is helping us optimize how we basically place packages in those trailers. It's in partnership with humans. At the end of the day, kind of what we see is a strong human and autonomous relationship, allowing the humans to focus on higher value work activities. But at the end of the day, and I think we've talked a little bit offline, nothing can work as fast as the machine, right? And so the machine allows, and the robotics allow us to kind of optimize how we get the packages in the trailers. And that's one example of kind of where autonomous fits into, or AI and robotics fits into some of the operation space. Really another one too is in partnership with another supplier, we're actually looking at testing autonomous vehicles right now, autonomous trailer runs in Texas between two cities. And while there's a person sitting in the truck right now, they're basically running the routes. And we've tested thousands of miles between cities in Texas with zero issues, zero safety issues. Because ideally, at the end of the day, when you think about those long haul runs, that's where it's going to be really important for us to have autonomy take place. Because we're seeing contraction in the workforce for those long haul runs. And so we know that we're going to need to find alternative ways to basically run those trailers between cities in the future.
So we're talking about hardware and cool stuff. I'm going to just put a slide up here.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if you could tell us what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so I think the important pieces on here, like the middle where the Federal Express truck, we'll start there. That, one of the things that's super important for us is hitting our sustainability goals by 2040. And so in being carbon neutral by 2040, as I mentioned earlier, we've got 220,000 motorized vehicles on the road today. And the goal is to move the entire pickup and delivery fleet to electric vehicles or EV vehicles as part of that goal. We've already started to roll out EV vehicles for pickup and delivery, and we're going to basically turn over that entire fleet. Top right corner is as I said earlier, we're moving out of our owned data centers and moving everything into the colo and the cloud. And so that's a picture inside our co-location switch. And it's, honestly, you think you've seen one data center, you think you've seen them all, but it's one of the best and most innovative data centers I've ever seen. But that's where we're basically running all of our application and infrastructure. You can see kind of underneath of that some of the robotics we have running in operations, in our operational spaces. As I mentioned, the work that we're doing with Dexterity and the other partner for autonomous vehicles, if you think about the different areas of business, express, ground, and freight, we have this goal for freight to pretty much run a dark dock, right? And so if you think about the freight facilities, it's about picking a pallet up off of one trailer and moving it to another. At the end of the day, we want that all autonomous, right? So basically run a dark dock, no humans, fully autonomous, because it's just a lot of repetitive work. And so there's a lot of innovation going on in that space. And on the left-hand side, on the bottom left, basically that's the scan tunnel as the packages move down the belts for sort. You know, the scan tunnels have a lot of technology. I mean, at the end of the day, FedEx is a technology company that moves packages. But we've got 6-sided scanners that basically take images or scan the barcodes on the packages in milliseconds as their packages are running down there, because we're making real-time decisions as to how to handle each of those packages with diverter arms and everything else in the sort facilities.
Do you ever wonder if one of these things breaks?
You know, interestingly enough, you know, there's a lot of sensors on a lot of the operations, a lot of the operations infrastructure and equipment these days, and that's pretty much across the board. I think everybody hears that, right? I mean, there's more sensors on, you know, there's a lot more sensors being added to a lot of hardware these days. A lot of those devices that we have in operations giving us real-time telemetry for all of the operational equipment, like and with that allowing us more predictively to replace parts ahead of when they actually break down to keep the lines running. I mean, we run 24/7, 365, and so when the sorts go down, it impacts our business.
So is this all about efficiency?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about our customers, right? Is how do we improve the customer experience? How do we basically improve our service? And a lot of what we're doing from an efficiency point of view is, one, yes, driving more efficiencies to reduce operating expense, but most importantly, to increase the customer experience and increase services for our customer.
So from the customer viewpoint, which you have a lot, obviously, for them, is it really efficiency? I'm going to get my package sooner?
It's kind of about, you know, I think from a package delivery point of view, I mean, I think we're providing a lot more visibility into the package delivery, but it's really about all of the other capabilities. It's not just package delivery, it's how do you more efficiently return a package. It's all of the additional add-ons that customers come to expect and improving every one of those customer interactions, right? We have this saying inside FedEx, it's about making every customer experience. It's about making sure every customer experience is great or outstanding. And we think about that not just from an end user customer point of view, but also from a supplier and partner point of view. But it's really about making every customer experience outstanding. And yes, visibility into inbound shipments for the customers is important, but it's also about all of the other capabilities that we want to provide and meet customers where they need to be. Digital is the expectation for customers.
So stepping back, based on your whole career and everything, what do you see as the next generation tech leader? Where do they come from? What does it look like?
I would just say, for me as a developer who moved into the role I have now, and constantly evolving how I think about leadership. You know, right now, and I think everybody knows this, there's this massive intersection of both tech and data happening, right? And it's not just digital, it's digital and physical. If you think of kind of a lot of the Fortune 50s and 100s, there's a massive physical operations that we're intersecting with digital and a lot of collection of data. And so I think for leaders, it's super important to understand the intersection of digital and physical and tech and data, and understand how to drive value out of those things. And honestly, it's about constant change. And I think one of the things, coming back around to the generative AI topic a minute ago, you know, it's, as I said earlier, sitting here a year ago, I wouldn't have predicted generative AI would be what it is today a year ago. But I would also say, if leaders don't have small teams working in the generative AI space right now with very focused outcomes, they're behind. Because the reality is it's evolving, and it's evolving fast, and everybody needs to be understanding how it's going to drive value for their businesses.
So what does the FedEx tech future look like? Constant evolution, like forever?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, we've been innovating since day one, and we'll be innovating every day moving forward. You know, I think a couple areas that, we're also spending time in, and it gets a little bit less. It gets a little bit less traffic these days is blockchain. We're spending time in the blockchain space as well. We're part of a consortium to drive, to make sure that blockchain is open as we move forward. Because I think as you think about, operating in 220 countries around the world, provenance about where packages or goods originated from becomes important. And I think you're going to see a lot more logistics transactions on blockchain moving forward. And then I think like everybody is trying to figure out too, when you think about quantum computing, where is it going to be? I think it's, we're starting to have some conversations about quantum computing. I think it's a 5-year thing, but I don't think anybody doubts that more of the advanced models are going to run on quantum than general compute as we move into the future.
So how do you keep track of all this?
I like to research, but I've got great teams that I work with and work for me. And so it's a matter of just, I've got great partners as well. It's a matter of just understanding what the business needs are and staying aligned with where the business is headed and figuring out what technologies we need to stay focused on to address business need.
Do you ever get torn between, oh, I really like that, that's the coolest thing. This over here is the biggest business value, so I have to stay over here?
Yeah, I will tell you, coming from developer to where I am today, I used to, we tend to have the things as developers that we like, and we tend to want to gear towards kind of the constant innovation. I'll say in the role I have now in running IT as a business for FedEx, we have to balance the innovation and the change with the cost. And so I think I've, been able to be more objective in the recent years in trying to find the right balance of where are we going to really focus on value and let innovation make the appropriate progress it needs to make before it's a dominant design that we actually lean heavily into for the company. Because back to the comment earlier, it's a lot of these things that are new, test well in isolation, but at scale run into a lot of problems. And so we've got to work through how do we scale out a lot of what we do.
So when you see a new technology, generative AI, whatever the next thing is, do you say, okay, we need to make sure we take a look at that and then just have a team, go check that out for us?
No, I think we collectively, yes, but we figure out where do we look at it, right? Like I said, there was 3 different use cases for where we're looking at generative AI. And so on the first use case where it's about the platforms, it's leveraging my partnership with the commercial side of the business to think about how to lean into some of those capabilities and some of those commercial platforms that drive near-term value for our customers. In the core space, it's about working with the DataWorks organization at the intersection of some of the generative AI, large language models, and the data that we have to basically advance our, I'll call it our core business processes. And then in the developer experience, I own the overall developer experience for the organization. And so as we look at from idea to release, how do we start to leverage generative AI as part of some of those core processes to improve developer efficiency and kind of reduce the time to value.
And do you ever look at things as risk? Like that thing could be a risk to our business?
Yeah, 100%. I have a strong partnership with our CISO. And as we think about risk and compliance, it's something we talk about every day. FedEx has what we call the CyTOC, the Cyber and IT Oversight Committee, which is basically a committee of the board members, separate from the corporate board. And every quarter, the CyTOC committee gets together, and we talk about risk. And as we talk about some of the things like generative AI and others, generative AI, as an example, done right, can provide a lot of efficiency and opportunity for companies. Done wrong can create a lot of risk for companies. And so it's making sure that risk is part of every conversation we have.
And cybersecurity, I'm sure, is in everything.
We actually say cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility inside the company.
So what advice for people here, and we've got tech companies here and all kinds of different kind of companies here, what advice would you give them in terms of how they approach emerging technology in general?
It's kind of I think for me I can give advice from my point of view, and I think sitting where I sit in the company that I sit at, in trying to find the balance of how do we leverage emerging technologies and be able to scale it out to support the business, it's finding the right maturity point in when we can actually do that. I think there are times in a person's career, like now with generative AI, I don't know how to scale Gen AI, but I do know it's something that's important for us to start to drive value for the business. So we need to basically make some bets onto when to lean in and lean in heavy, and we're doing that right now with generative AI. Some of like I mentioned earlier, the work that we're doing with blockchain. There's work we're doing with blockchain and as part of a consortium, and that's taken a much longer time frame just because of where kind of the evolution that blockchain has made over the past few years. I don't think there's a silver bullet to say this is how you handle every innovative technology in all use cases.
So do you have fun in your job?
From an outside-in point of view, it looks like looks to be a great job, and it honestly is a great job. There's just a lot of pressure right now because I can sit here right now and say, we've announced to the street that our goal is to be one Federal Express corporation June 1st next year. And what that means is consolidation of Express and Ground into the single entity. So what that's doing is driving massive business transformation as part of that, which in turn is driving massive technology transformation, separate from the bottoms up technology transformation we were doing to shut down the data centers. And so everything is changing right now, and all changing for the better, which obviously drives a lot of work, pressure, but is super exciting. It's a great place to be right now.
What else would you be doing?
Yeah, I think anywhere else, I think I would be bored at the moment.
So everything after the word massive is usually a big issue.
Yeah.
Everything at FedEx has to be massive.
Yeah, when you change a system, because those systems run around the globe, you have to think about rolling it out on a global basis. And so, and you're impacting operations, you're impacting the customers, and there's just a lot of things to think about when you're making this kind of change.
So a year from now, if we're sitting here, no one saw Gen AI coming. Is there anything a year from now you think, oh, it's probably going to be a new version of cloud, a new edge, a new whatever? Is there something that speculation that technologically that might hit the market?
Yeah, I can't predict anything. And so I think
that's kind of a problem with this market.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you could predict those types of things, I think we would all be sitting in different seats right now. But I honestly, I love the pace of change that we're seeing. I don't know that I would want it any other way, because every day would be boring. So I think the pace keeps every day exciting and every day a different day.
Well, you probably now have half a room who wants to go work at FedEx. So please join me in thanking Adam. Great job, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.